Said would actually state that the Temple of Abydos served as a stargate of sorts, a place where you were able to jump in and out of time and space.
A stargate? Could the Temple of Abydos have acted as a portal to other points in the universe? According to ancient astronaut theorists, a feature inside the temple supports this sensational claim. They point to a bell-shaped object painted on a chapel wall that some refer to as the Osiris device.
When we look at this symbol through modern eyes, it's highly technological. To the eyes of a physicist or an engineer, it looks like a Tesla coil. And you wonder, what could an image that resembles a Tesla coil be doing on the walls of a temple that's 3,500 years old?
I've seen some wild theories about ancient art, but this painting, it genuinely threw me off. At first glance, it looks like any other centuries-old piece. Aged canvas, religious figures, symbolic details. But the more you look, the weirder it gets. Because tucked inside the artwork are images that look way too modern to be accidental. We're talking about objects that resemble modern machines, clothing that doesn't match the era, even symbols that some believe point directly to current events. Historians are baffled. Some call it coincidence. Others think the artist knew something they shouldn't have. But one thing's for sure, this isn't just a painting anymore. It's a mystery staring back at us from the past. I'm talking about the one with the accidental space battle, painted sometime in the 14th century. This Serbian Orthodox monastery holds a fresco that should have been a peaceful depiction of the crucifixion of Christ. You know, standard religious art, angels, saints, maybe some Roman guards standing around looking miserable. But whoever painted this scene must have seen way too much, because up in the corners of the sky, two little figures are flying what looks suspiciously like spacecraft. Walang halos, no clouds. These aren't ethereal beings floating on divine energy. These men are in what look like literal capsules, with heads turned, arms extended like they're piloting machines. They've got what appear to be fire trails behind them. Fire. Trails. That's not symbolic. That's exhaust. And while one of them is heading left, the other is flying to the right, like they're circling the scene in opposing orbits, or maybe just chasing each other down. So here's the question. What was a 14th century monk doing casually painting what looks like an aerial dogfight into a religious mural? He wasn't high. He wasn't being edgy. This was a church job. And you didn't just freestyle weird cosmic vehicles unless you had a reason. Which makes this a problem. Because either A, he saw something no one else did, or B, he knew something that was never supposed to end up on a wall. Historians will tell you it's all metaphor. That it's just the sun and the moon personified. Oh, really? Since when do celestial bodies need cockpits? Since when do they look at each other like Top Gun pilots about to engage? No one in the 1300s had any concept of flight, let alone this kind of symmetry in a sky scene. Not birds, not angels. These are machines, with people in them. So either the painter accidentally tapped into the blueprint of the future, or this wasn't imagination at all. Maybe it was memory, a retelling, something passed down from someone who saw too much. And if they snuck this into a crucifixion scene of all places, what else got buried in the background of our oldest churches? Because this isn't just a painting, this is a receipt. While this one's ancient, but maybe you can make some sense of it. Somehow, the people who lived in the middle of the Sahara thousands of years ago painted things on their cave walls that would make a NASA scientist sweat. Tassili and Ajer cave paintings. Deep in the Tassili Najer mountain range of Algeria, there's a cave system with over 15,000 drawings, and at first glance, it looks like your usual ancient rock art. Hunters with spears, animals, ceremonial dances, Stone Age stuff. But then, you see them. The gods. The figures no one can explain. And suddenly, this isn't a history lesson anymore. It's a warning. Some of these beings are over 7 feet tall, with massive round heads, dark, featureless faces, and limbs that bend wrong. One's even been nicknamed the Great Martian God. And I wish that was an exaggeration, but go ahead and Google it. Tell me it doesn't look like a guy in a helmet and a pressurized suit. And don't even get me started on the equipment. Some figures are drawn with tubes running from their heads. Others are hovering, no legs touching the ground. Some are even surrounded by what looks like circular control panels or mechanical harnesses. And just to be clear, this isn't the 1800s. These paintings are from 6000 to 10,000 BC. That's before the wheel, before pyramids. But somehow, this? Experts call it shamanic symbolism. Of course they do, because saying these people may have witnessed advanced technology gets you laughed out of archaeology conferences. But let's be honest, these weren't random squiggles. The artists didn't accidentally draw helmets with breathing tubes. This was deliberate, detailed, repeated across different caves, hundreds of miles apart. And here's where it gets really uncomfortable. The ancient tribes who lived here called these beings the gods who came from the sky. Not stars, sky. They said they taught them things, helped them survive, and then disappeared. Sound familiar? This isn't just ancient graffiti. It's a snapshot of contact. And if these paintings really are over 8,000 years old, that means the idea of future technology, of suits, gear, and flight existed before agriculture did. So what were they trying to tell us? Because if a civilization with no metal tools was already sketching out humanoid giants in mechanical suits, maybe they weren't looking forward. Maybe they were looking back at something they'd already seen. And if you thought the confusion ends here, you're wrong. There's so much more. Like the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, tucked away in one of the holiest sites of ancient Egypt, in a temple dedicated to Pharaoh Seti I. There's a stone carving that should not exist. It's right there on the ceiling. A slab filled with ancient symbols, surrounded by hieroglyphs, and 4 specific shapes that do not belong in the Bronze Age. Because somehow, in a temple built over 3,000 years ago, someone carved what looks like a helicopter, a tank, a jet, and what many swear is a UFO. I'm not kidding. The helicopter has rotor blades. The submarine has a periscope. The tank has a cannon. And the jet? Sleek body, swept back wings. It's like someone built an ancient military poster, then slapped it above a pharaoh's head like no one would notice. Now if this were found in a modern fake or a tourist trap, sure, hoax. But this is Abydos, the spiritual center of ancient Egypt. No one was pranking with stone tools at 2 a.m. carving Apache blueprints. This is sacred architecture. So what's the official excuse? They call it a palimpsest. That's historian speak for oops, we carved over something and the old stuff showed through. They say it's 2 layers of hieroglyphs accidentally merging into futuristic shapes. Okay, but go look at the image. You tell me how overlapping symbols just accidentally turn into a detailed aircraft profile with rotors, wings, and tail fins. Go ahead, I'll wait. It's way too clean, way too specific, way too modern. The temple was built by Seti I and later added onto by Ramses II, both pharaohs obsessed with documenting power. But if they were trying to immortalize victory, why sneak in shapes no one at the time should have understood? Unless, of course, they did. Unless this isn't imagination, it's memory, a recreation of technology witnessed long before history started keeping receipts. Or even worse, it's a warning, a reference to something that came before them and vanished. And let me remind you, this carving was made centuries before Leonardo da Vinci even doodled his flying machines. So either ancient Egyptians were time travelers, or someone showed them the future. And they carved it in stone so we'd never forget. Alright, this one's not prehistoric. It's not even medieval. But it still managed to break the internet. And honestly, I get it. Because if you showed this painting to someone today, they'd swear the girl was checking her notifications. The Expected One, by Ferdinand Georg Waldmüller. Painted in 1860 by Austrian artist Ferdinand Georg Waldmüller, The Expected One was supposed to be a romantic, sentimental scene. A young woman walking through a quiet countryside, hands together, head down, while a suitor waits ahead with a flower in hand. Pretty wholesome, right? Wrong. Because the moment you see what she's holding in her hands, the whole painting flips. She's not holding a letter. She's not holding a Bible. She's not even acknowledging the poor guy waiting for her with a rose, like he's on The Bachelor, 19th century edition. She looks glued to the object in her hands, 2 hands on a rectangular slab, eyes down, completely absorbed. It's every teenager in 2025. The body language is unmistakable. She's scrolling, and suddenly, it doesn't look like she's walking toward love. It looks like she's walking into traffic because TikTok's got her full attention. And yeah, art historians insist it's just a prayer book. Of course they do, because admitting that this painting looks like it nailed 21st century smartphone addiction 160 years in advance would make too many eyebrows twitch. They'll say it's just coincidence, but this isn't close. It's uncanny. If you didn't know the date, you'd assume it was a modern painting pretending to be vintage. It's the pose, the focus, the detachment. This girl invented ghosting before texting was even a thing. The painting started going viral back in the 2010s when people on Reddit and Twitter started asking, why is this 19th century girl checking her phone? And now, it's officially entered internet legend as the time-traveling teen with an iPhone. Memes, conspiracy theories, even jokes about Steve Jobs getting ideas from oil paintings. It's all out there. So what does this mean? Was he poking fun at social disconnection before it even existed? Or is this just one of those rare accidents of history that makes you do a double take? Whatever it is, this painting didn't just predict the future. It walked right into it. While you process that, we're heading to Australia. But forget kangaroos and koalas, because what the indigenous people painted on these rocks will make you question everything you think you know about ancient history. The Wandjina figures, scattered across caves in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, are some of the oldest and most mysterious paintings on Earth. These aren't just drawings, they're statements. Huge, towering beings with no mouths, massive black eyes, and featureless white faces. The locals call them the Wandjina, and they are not your average cave doodles. These figures were painted thousands of years ago, some dating back 4,000 years or more, by the indigenous Mwandjum people, who say the Wandjina were sky beings, gods, creators. The ones who came from above, shaped the world, and left. But they didn't just leave stories behind, they left visuals. And these visuals hit a little too close to home. Each Wandjina looks like it's wearing a helmet. Some even have halos or strange circles around their heads, like some kind of atmospheric bubble. Their bodies are either missing or hidden in flowing robes or mist-like forms, like they're not fully human. Oh, and they're massive. Some are painted over 6 feet tall, towering above you on cave walls. Now let's talk about those eyes. Jet black, almond-shaped, and cold. No irises, no expression. Just voids. They stare down at you like they're watching, judging, recording. So why does this matter? Because without knowing what they were, the artists painted something that looks eerily close to modern depictions of astronauts or artificial intelligence. Think about it. No mouths, glowing heads, mechanical symmetry. That's not ancient tribal art. That's tech. And the no-mouth thing? The Mwandjum say it's because the Wandjina didn't speak. They communicated through thought. That's right. Telepathy. Every now and then, the paintings are refreshed by the local people to maintain the sacred energy, but they never add mouths. That's part of the deal. You don't mess with their design. You don't alter what was passed down, because the Wandjina were real to them, not symbolic, real. So either these people just happened to invent the same look as modern depictions of advanced technology, or someone showed them and left. And now their faces are frozen in paint, looking straight into ours, as if they're saying, "Took you long enough." But this next one doesn't hit you with glowing eyes or mystery helmets. Caravaggio didn't need any of that. What he did instead, he painted a single figure staring at his own reflection, and somehow he predicted the most dangerous addiction of the modern world. Narcissus by Caravaggio. Painted around 1597, Caravaggio's Narcissus is based on the Greek myth of a boy who sees his reflection in the water and falls in love with it. But this isn't a soft, romantic take. This version is dark, obsessive, uncomfortably modern. In the painting, Narcissus is crouched over a pool of water, locked in eye contact with himself. And the way Caravaggio frames it, it's like a mirror screen. The light, the focus, the way his hand nearly touches the reflection, it's not just vanity, it's worship. Narcissus doesn't see a person, he sees his identity, and he can't look away. Sound familiar? This painting may be over 400 years old, but it reads like a full-blown diagnosis of 21st century phone culture. It's the Instagram scroll, the TikTok loop, the endless front-facing camera check. We're all Narcissus now, curled over our own reflections, desperate for likes, filters, and that dopamine hit of digital approval. Caravaggio didn't just paint a myth, he painted a warning. And it hits even harder because of how simple it is. No distractions, no gods in the background. Just you, your face, and the thing pulling you deeper every time you look. Now here's the creepy part. Narcissus is stuck. His reflection, it's not reaching back. It's silent, cold, and the longer he stares, the more he fades into it. That's how the myth ends. He literally wastes away, unable to leave his own image behind. Tell me that's not the most accurate metaphor for social media addiction anyone's ever created in 1597. Even the composition is eerily modern. It's almost square, framed like a screen. The figure is centered, lit like a selfie. It doesn't feel classical. It feels designed, like Caravaggio somehow cracked the psychology of obsession and hit publish 4 centuries early. All right. If you thought cave art was just stick figures and hunting scenes, Val Camonica is here to destroy that idea completely, because these aren't just ancient drawings. These are receipts, blueprints, warnings, and some of them look like they were ripped straight from the pages of a modern comic. Val Camonica Petroglyphs, Italy. Located in northern Italy, Val Camonica is home to one of the largest collections of prehistoric rock carvings in the world. We're talking over 140,000 petroglyphs, etched over an insane stretch of 8,000 years. That alone is wild. But then you look at what they were carving, and that's when things get weird. Because right there on the rock walls, among the usual farming tools and deer hunts, are figures wearing what look like full-blown hazmat suits, helmets, visors, body armor. Some even have what look like antennas coming out of their heads. And let's just ask the obvious question. Why the hell would a Bronze Age farmer need a space helmet? Some of these carvings are called the astronaut figures for a reason. They're humanoid, yes, but the heads are big, rounded, fully enclosed. The kind of thing you'd wear if you were afraid of radiation, or stepping onto a planet that wasn't Earth. And it doesn't stop at the suits. There are also carvings of gear-shaped objects, spirals, grids, and what look like control panels. One glyph even shows a humanoid figure inside a rectangle with lines coming out of it, like they're sitting inside a machine. Not riding a horse, not on a chariot, inside something. Now historians say it's all symbolic, that these are ritual masks or spiritual armor. Okay, sure. But here's the thing. These designs show up repeatedly over generations, and they're specific, not decorative, functional looking. If they were just ritual masks, why give them visors? Why the tight seals around the neck? Why the repeating geometric patterns that look like circuit boards? And don't forget, these were carved into solid rock. That takes time, precision, intent. You don't casually chip a helmeted figure into stone unless it means something. So maybe these weren't gods. Maybe they were visitors. Maybe what the people saw in Val Camonica was so impossible, so unlike anything they knew. They carved it into the cliffs to make sure no one ever forgot. Well, the Neanderthals would like a word, and they left that word smeared in red ochre 65,000 years ago, deep inside a Spanish cave. The Neanderthal cave art. Let's just rip the band-aid off. Neanderthals beat Homo sapiens to cave painting by 20,000 years. That's not a theory. That's a dated, confirmed fact. And it completely wrecks the old story that creativity, real, symbolic, self-aware art was exclusive to modern humans. Nope. Turns out the so-called dumb cousins were drawing before we even showed up. It all started in Cueva de Dalis, Maltravieso Cave, and La Pasiega, deep inside the Spanish countryside. And what they found there wasn't random scratches or natural stains. It was deliberate art. Red hand stencils, repeated shapes, linear patterns, all made with red ochre pigment. And this wasn't just finger painting for fun. Neanderthals had to collect the pigment, grind it, mix it, and apply it. Some of it sprayed or blown through tubes like airbrushes. That's planning. That's intention. That's art. And scientists were skeptical at first, because of course they were. No one wanted to admit that Neanderthals might have been deeper than, fire good. But then came uranium-thorium dating. No more guessing. This technique analyzes the thin calcite layers that form on top of the paint. And guess what? Those layers dated back 65,000 years, long before Homo sapiens arrived in Europe. So unless we had time-traveling cavemen, this wasn't us. This was them. The hand stencils in Maltravieso Cave are especially brutal in how clear they are. Red outlines of fingers spread wide, printed like a prehistoric "I was here." That's not a hunting diagram. That's identity. That's expression. That's a Neanderthal saying, "I matter." And over in La Pasiega, the symbols go full cryptic. Grids, ladder shapes, repeating marks that don't seem decorative. They look coded, like early attempts at communication. Not spoken, not written, but carved, preserved, permanent. So let's be clear. The moment Neanderthals left those marks, they crossed the line from instinct to intention. They weren't reacting to nature. They were documenting it. They weren't mimicking us. They were beating us to it. And if they started the world's first art movement, what else did they start that we still haven't given them credit for? And it's not just the ancient humans. Humans in the last few decades have also predicted the future in strange ways. In 2010, someone was casually flipping through the DVD extras of Charlie Chaplin's The Circus, a silent film released in 1928, and stumbled across something no one had noticed for over 80 years. Not a blooper, not a hidden message, something worse, something that makes your brain hit pause and go, "Wait, what?" The scene is simple. Chaplin's walking outside a theater. Crowds are moving around in the background. But then, there she is, an older woman walking slowly behind the crowd, wearing a dark coat, a black hat, white gloves, and holding something right up to her ear. Not just holding it, talking into it. And it's not part of the set. No stage gag, no visual joke. Just her, walking, talking, into what looks exactly like a modern smartphone. Now keep in mind, this is 1928. There's no sound in films yet. No mobile phones. No wireless tech. Nothing that makes sense of this image. So naturally, the internet did what it does best. Freak out. Time traveler. Caught on film. She's checking in with the future. And honestly, watching the footage, it's hard to argue. Her hand placement, the casual pace, the way she's talking, like she's mid-call and lost in conversation. It all feels so familiar. Too familiar. Sure, skeptics came out swinging. They said it was probably an old hearing aid, maybe a portable one like the Acousticon, which was available in the early 1900s. But here's the thing. Those devices weren't tiny. They looked more like clunky handheld radios with wires and awkward battery packs. Not the kind of thing a movie extra would casually stroll around using on set. The Mike Tyson fan. August 19th, 1995, Las Vegas. Mike Tyson was fresh out of prison, stepping back into the ring after 3 years, and the whole world was watching. Thousands of people packed the MGM Grand, cameras everywhere, press, fans, celebrities, but one random person in the crowd ends up stealing the spotlight decades later. Because if you look closely at some of the ringside footage, there's a man holding up a device that looks just like a modern smartphone. And I mean, just like it. Sleek, thin, metallic side, no viewfinder, no wires, no chunky lens. He's holding it vertically, like you would an iPhone, and even seems to be using it to take a photo or record video. In 1995. Now, remember what cameras looked like back then. They were bulky. You needed film. You needed 2 hands to steady the shot. Flip screens weren't a thing yet. And smartphones, they were still science fiction. The first iPhone didn't drop until 2007. So what is this guy using? Some say it might be a rare compact camera, but camera nerds have torn this footage apart. The design doesn't match any known models from that era. The silver component on the side, the absence of a visible lens. None of it lines up with the tech available in the mid-90s, which leaves two options. Option A, it's an unreleased prototype that no one ever saw again. Option B, that man wasn't from 1995. Because let's be honest, he's not sneaky. He's just casually recording a fight like every other fan in 2023 would. Maybe he thought he could blend in. Maybe he wanted a front row seat to a legendary event. But what he didn't count on was getting caught on his own footage. So was it a futuristic camera no one remembers? A bizarre coincidence? Or just a guy who slipped into the wrong decade with the wrong tech? Whatever it was, he came to film Mike Tyson. But now we're all watching him.